The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm very happy to be
Hi,
here
very
with
happy
you.
to be here with you.
Yes, we've got a big show,
Yeah.
lots to talk about. Before, I just promised our dear friend Gina Giambi-Peters that I would let people know that there's a Family Fun Day. I've had a very difficult time saying it, but Family Fun Day that's for the Center for Special Needs, and that's the number 4, centerforspecialneeds.org. It's happening on Saturday, November 2nd. It's from 11 to 3, and it's happening in Thousand Oaks. It's a really special event, and they are currently looking for vendors who would like to have booths at the event. So I know Autism Live is going to be there to cover it, and so I want to put that out there to everybody that if you have a business or a product or a cause or an organization and you want to have a booth there, they're looking for vendors, and you can find out more about that by going to centerfor specialneeds.org.
She always puts on such great events, so I'm sure it's going to be.
Yeah, it'll be really, really fun, and there's a lot that happens at the event, but it's right after Halloween. It's just a couple of days after Halloween, so they're going to do a trick-or-treat costume repeat, which if you think about it is a very clever thing to do, because Halloween comes and then it's over and it's like pack it all up. But for our kids, sometimes they don't really get it until the end of the evening, especially the little ones. So this is kind of a cool idea that, you know, all right, so it's November 2nd, but, you know, we can do a repeat. Why not? So I love that. They're going to have face painting and all kinds of things and therapy horses and music. It'll be really fun.
That's going to be
And
fun.
we're going to do, I say we're going to do, we go to events and we try to do a live feed, and sometimes the internet cooperates and sometimes it doesn't. But we're going to be there. We'll push out a live feed. We'll find a way to do it. So anyway, that. But we usually like to start within the news. I'm completely unprepared, but
Well, we have a couple of stories. One is in Salon Magazine, which is a very interesting article about. It's titled, Greta Thunberg is right. Autism is her superpower. Those who mock her should learn from her.
Yeah. We covered a couple of weeks ago that there was some idiot stick, and we're not going to, I don't know his name and I'm not going to bother finding his name out, but who basically said, why are people listening to this child? And said other things that were really inappropriate. And, you know, if I had a cane and was walking by him, I'd want to kick him with it, right? Or a pointed shoe if I had one of those, and usually I do. But anyway, Greta's been really in the news, and just the other day, she was speaking in Washington, D.C. She is a very eloquent young woman. She happens to be somebody who is a part of the autism community and identifies herself as being on the autism spectrum, but her passion is the environment.
Right.
And she is very fond of telling all of us that we are not listening and that we need to listen. I love one of her quotes, and I'm going to, paraphrase it, but she basically said, I want you to act like your house is on fire, because it is. The world that we live in is on fire. It's telling us in all these different ways that we need to do something. I just think she's remarkable. I think it's remarkable that she's a passionate young woman and so well spoken. I think her parents are remarkable because they've helped her to find a voice. But I also think it's wonderful that she's a part of our community, and that what a role model for all of our kids to look up to and
Right.
go, it doesn't, I always think of that song in Les Mis about, a flea can bite the bottom of the Pope in Rome and never kick a pup because he's just a pup, because sooner or later the pup grows up. I love it when our kids are empowered to teach us, because this is important. Don't
Very
you agree?
important. It's very important. And the gist of this article is that it's precisely because of her autism that she's so effective at what she does. Her passion, her single-minded focus, that, she has a deep passion that many people may find difficult to comprehend, but that's part of what makes her unique.
And I mean, what better light could someone in our community be cast? When somebody is saying something like, well, we shouldn't be listening to this kid who, and I don't remember what the word he said, but basically said, she has a disorder, and so why are we listening to a kid with a disorder about this? And I love that she in no way, tried to defend or excuse or whatever. It was like, hey, this this place that my brain is in happens to serve me well.
Right.
I just think that that's a remarkable lesson for all of our kids and for the world. I loved that over the weekend, a bunch of my friends that are not part of the autism community were posting, Go Greta things and saying what a remarkable woman she is. And, and I was like, she's the best, right? But I love it that she's embraced outside. We always say we got to get outside our community for people to understand autism. And Greta's doing it, and that's not even her intent. She's trying to save the world. She's trying to save all of us. So what a remarkable woman.
She is remarkable.
I just, and of course we have reached out to her to be on the show. She's very busy. So she does not have time to come on the show, and I respect that immensely. Anyway, love some Greta. Thank you, Greta. You're doing a great job. You're teaching us all. Okay, and then we have another article. This comes to us from Health Day Reporter, but this has been in the news a lot over the last week about the rising rate of autism, and that it's rising the fastest for the Hispanic community and the Black community. It's upsetting no matter how you look at it.
Right.
There's no, nobody should be shying away from these numbers, but there's a lot of different people who have a lot of different opinions about this. Is it because we're finally getting to these very underserved populations and getting the information to them so that they can find out about getting a diagnosis?
Right.
Is that why there is such a steep rise in it? Or is there more incidences of autism in these communities?
Right.
But no one can deny that these are underserved communities.
No.
They're not the only underserved communities. I think there was a period of time, I can remember 5 years ago, when there was a big push and a lot of people were doing work going into some of the Asian communities and doing lectures and talks. Because before that, in the Asian community, autism was not even on the radar.
Right.
And that culturally in some communities, it's like, oh, if it's anything that could be stigmatized, we really don't want that for our kids, right? But we see that that push into those communities has meant so much more services for that underserved community. But here we are with these two communities, and I don't know, it makes me mad. It's great that we're identifying this, but I want to know what the next step is.
Right.
And of course, this is also tied to some deeper questions that have been raised over the last few years. There is a person who worked at the CDC who claims that papers were asked to be destroyed and that he still retains them. He's brought them to light, and they suggest that in one of the studies that they did on the MMR, that they discovered that for African American boys, but in a certain age range, that if they had the MMR, they were more likely to develop autism.
That's right.
It's very controversial. But I would like to know why there isn't more research being done on that.
Right.
If a person who worked at the CDC is alleging that, why don't we stop?
We haven't heard much about
Why
that
don't
in
we
recent
stop
times.
everything and look at that?
Yeah.
And why does everybody get so defensive and say, nope, asked and answered, we figured that out? Really? Maybe we need to look at distinct populations and make sure that we are serving them properly. I don't know. I honestly don't have any answers here, but I think it is important to not look away. This means that there are more kids who need more services and need more support.
And they're in areas where services and support is rare.
And the funding is short, and we know that there's disparity in funding. I mean, we've seen this time and time again that, kid walks in the door and the family is given a certain amount of whatever from a funding source, and that this community, the numbers don't match up. These two communities, the numbers don't match up. I'm ready to take to the street. I mean, if this maddens you, let somebody lead the charge. This is not acceptable.
Not acceptable.
So there's that. No palate cleanse today.
No.
I do want to say, though, too, every week when we're picking the news stories, it's very hard for me because there's always a news story about kiddos who elope. And in the last week, we've had stories that ended positively and stories that ended not positively. And I just want to say, because in the spring and in the fall, we tend to have more of these cases. So I just want to put it out there to everyone who's watching. If you have a little kid who elopes, please stop everything and deal with that. Please stop everything and deal with that.
Yeah, there's nothing more important than that.
Secure your home.
Right.
Put alarms.
Find tracking
everywhere,
devices for your
get
child.
Tracking devices. Then
teach them not to elope through ABA therapy, which is possible.
Absolutely. Get them ABA services to help them to do that, because there's a reason why they're eloping. Work on that. Tour your neighborhood. Talk to your neighbors. If they have a pool that doesn't have a fence, talk to them about that. Let them know about your child. You need to know where the pools are. You need to know where the ponds are. And teach your child how to swim. Most places have a discounted rate for kids who are on the autism spectrum. Make sure that if you're teaching them how to swim, that they know how to swim with their clothes and their shoes on, and that they learn in their clothes and in their shoes how to turn over and float on their backs. We've seen that save lives.
Right.
But get some sort of tracking device, or get the QR code like the If I Need Help, and go to your local police, introduce your child, tell them my child is an eloper. If I raise the alert, I need for you to come and help me. I'm doing everything I can so that that doesn't happen, but let them know. Seconds count when a child goes missing. And the time that you have to explain on the 911 call, my child has autism, and are seconds that really could be everything, your entire world. Get the help that you need.
Yeah, very important. Glad you reminded us of that, Shannon.
Yeah, so we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with our guest, Jeannette Magaro. Maybe?
Sounds like it, Magaro.
And
Luciano Magaro is her son.
That's right, and she is the co-author with her son of this book, My Life with Gary. Gary is, I've been saying to them all week, Gary is not who you think.
Right.
So just know you're going to find out now who Gary is. And she's the founder of autisminclassrooms.org and the co-host of Simply Social Stories. So she's going to be back with us in just a minute, and so take a look at this in the meantime.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Hey guys, for the month of September, I figured I'd show you guys how to make a task completion chart to help your kids get through the hardest parts of the day. Parents have been writing into our host, Shannon and the hardest parts of the day are waking up in the morning, after school, and getting ready for bed. Please keep in mind you can always modify the task completion chart to focus on the skills that your family needs most. The template we'll be using today to make the task completion chart you can find at facebook.com/autism-live. All right, let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing are the template, cardstock, scissors, hole puncher, glue, pipe cleaner, Velcro, and photos or images. We find it more reinforcing for kids if you use images of themselves doing the tasks that you're trying to get them to complete. So what I have here to start off are photos of myself doing all the tasks that we're going to add to our task completion chart today. The first step you're going to be doing is printing the template from facebook.com/autism-live. I have it here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim at the top. We don't need that, that's just totally excess. Now that I trim my 3 templates, I'm going to label each one with a different part of the day that we're focusing on, such as waking up, after school, and getting ready for bed. Now that I finished labeling the templates with the appropriate time of the day, I'm going to attach the photos that go with it. For bedtime, the tasks I chose were getting ready for school, putting away toys, putting on pajamas, and brushing teeth. Now repeat this for all the rest of the day. Now that I've added the photos to the template, I am taking this along with my heavy cardstock to hold all my tokens. I'm going to line them up and make 3 hole punches. I'm going to take this pipe cleaner and attach the pages together with it. We're almost done putting this together. Next, I'm going to take my Velcro. I'm going to put them underneath each picture. And then I'm going to add 4 on the very edge too. Now that I've attached the rough side of the Velcro to the template, now I'm going to take the softer side and add these to the tokens. You can use whatever you want for the tokens, whatever your child finds reinforcing. They could be stickers, images, spacemen, Pokemon, whatever they like. Before you use your task completion chart, it's really important that you do a preference assessment to see what your child finds reinforcing that day. Once you have that established, then you can tell them the rule for how this task completion chart works. So every time they get one of their tasks completed, they add a token to it. And the way the task completion chart functions is like a token economy. So after they put a token under each one of these tasks, they can trade it in for their reinforcer for the day. Now that you've made your task completion chart, hopefully your child will be able to use it on a daily basis and help them through those difficult times of the day. Well, until next time, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
just go like this. Can you see me? Puedes mirarme aquí? Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca Ishida. Say hi, Ethan. Hi. My son was diagnosed with autism in November 2004. With Ethan, almost immediately, we noticed things that were troublesome, that he just didn't sleep. He would vomit in the crib. There were a lot of sensory issues.
Then he'd have like 20 of the trains lined up, and if you came in and took one train out, just meltdown completely.
Guttural instinct is to think that there's nothing wrong. Who wants to look at their child and go, there's something wrong with that child? You don't. You always want to see the best in your child.
Will my kid be able to go to school? Will he interact with his peers? Will he be able to have a healthy relationship? Will he get married? I really thought that autism was like a death sentence. A lot of hope was given to me through CARD. This was my third agency and the best agency we had. And there was no way in the world I was going to give up CARD because of the gains I saw Ethan was having.
Ah, you did it!
And I remember when Doreen saw us for the evaluation, she says, but by the time he's 6, he will be recovered. And that's exactly what happened.
I'll fix that.
Hi, I decided to start Autism Works Now as a small business because 90% of individuals with autism and related disabilities are not employed after graduating from high school. Our mission at Autism Works Now is to create job opportunities for Spectrum youth and kids through awareness and education.
Here we are, we're back.
And we're very excited because we have two wonderful people joining us via Skype. We have Jeannette Magaro and her wonderful, wonderful son, Luciano Magaro, joining us. They are the co-authors of this wonderful book, My Life with Gary, Coping with Autism Spectrum Disorder. We should also say that Jeannette is the founder of autisminclassrooms.org and the co-host of Simply Social Stories. We're going to be chatting with them. But all week long, I've been saying to everybody that we were going to have you on the show and talk about this, My Life with Gary, and that Gary was not who they thought Gary was. So I don't know which one of you wants to answer this, but let's unveil the mystery. Who is Gary?
So we have a lot of people that think that the co-author is Gary, which is not as Luciano. And then we have a lot of people even say things like, oh, Gary's always with you. So they really don't kind of get who Gary is. So Luciano, do you want to explain how you were introduced to Gary and how all that came about?
My counselors were talking to my parents and me and said, if you can name a part of your brain, who would you name it? And I named it Gary.
So Gary is a part of your brain that you named.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very interesting because one would think that Gary is the child on the spectrum in this story.
Or I had people guess that it was a therapist or, a teacher that's helping or whatever. So it's very interesting that you name a part of your brain Gary, but that makes for a really lovely story with some really amazing insights into it about Gary. And I need to know, there are all these lovely drawings, pencil drawings in the book too. Who is the illustrator?
Mom.
Okay.
Oh, Mom, you did that as well.
Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about why you wrote this book, the two of you together, and why it's so personal to you, and why you would share something so personal.
So initially, I was boarding a plane with my daughter on the way home from Iceland, and we're in the airport, and it hit me. Luciano had said, he was obviously diagnosed very late, and as we were going through therapy, he said that I don't get him, and boy, did that ever burn. And we all know that it's hard to understand autism for something that we're not experiencing ourselves. So we're in an airport in Iceland, just Luciano's older sister and I said, I need to get paper and pencil, and all these thoughts as to how Luciano's day is impacted from the beginning of the day when he wakes up to when he goes to bed all came out on paper. And I came home and I kind of kept it to myself, and I told just a couple close friends, and I hadn't drawn anything since college, and I said, I'm going to draw the whole thing too, right? And I kept it to myself, and then one day I read it to my husband, and I sobbed. And that was the first I ever really broke down since Luciano's diagnosis. And I have a close friend who's a publisher, and she said, Jeannette, this is, really personal. Make sure you're in a really good space when you're ready to, to rock and roll with this. So we handed it over to the publisher. She sent it out to an evaluator, and, they wanted some modifications to make the book, something really marketable, something that could be purchased by a teacher to be able to help a student like Luciano. So that's when I had to tag in Luciano for help, and he had to, explain to me, different ways that teachers are able to help them. So we made those modifications throughout the book, and of course, it came back that they needed more illustrations, so Luciano had to pose, and he helped with his own bio as well. So it's just really, I'm so proud of him.
Well, absolutely. How old are you now, Luciano? 12. And so how do you feel about this book? Do you was it fun for you working on this book with Mom, and now having to do things like this, interviews? Is that interesting, or is it just at 12 a lot of things are boring, right? How do you feel about it?
Good.
Good, okay.
I love that. And how do you feel about Gary?
Okay.
Okay, I like
Okay,
that.
Jeannette, you hope that this can go into classrooms throughout the country, right?
Correct. Yeah, I really think that this is really where it needs to be. I think that there's plenty of organizations out there trying to figure out what's causing autism, right?
Right.
Or how we can put tools into kids' hands, like iPads and things like that, how they can cope. But I really think that, my son's high functioning, obviously, and with the amount of numbers that we have, there's clearly a child like my son, or if it's not in your child's class, maybe there's a child like Luciano right across the hall. And, I think people really misunderstand kids like Luci, and they think that maybe they're rude, but they don't realize that maybe it's something else causing, certain behaviors. So I think really the best thing that we can do is we can train, right? And we can educate, and we can do it at ground level up. So really 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, you've read the book, it's a very easy read. And it explains just how Luciano is just like every other kid, but also a little bit different.
At what age, and either one of you can answer this, at what age was Luciano diagnosed?
He was diagnosed at 10, and he just turned 12 just a couple days ago.
So this is relatively new.
Why do you think he got such a late diagnosis, Jeannette?
Because he is very high functioning, and I can tell you, first off, the pediatrician, my pediatrician may be about 60, 65 now. My daughter, who's almost 18, they did not vet her for autism, right? So at 2, they were asking a lot of questions about how Luciano plays and things like that. So they were just starting to vet for autism at the pediatrician that we go to. And I think we just went through a series of diagnoses that maybe just weren't quite right.
Right.
I think, too, I've learned since this diagnosis that going to outpatient counseling and sitting on a couch really isn't effective for any child, more or less a kid with ASD. I think part of it too is the fact that the mental health system, the psychiatrists that we've seen are wonderful. It takes quite some time to get in, and when you get in with them, you're in for maybe 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, you really can't get to know a child, especially one that it might be a little bit masked because he is so high functioning. So I think there were a lot of reasons why it was missed, but it was definitely a big miss, that's for sure.
Tell us a little bit about autism in the classrooms and how that came about and what you're hoping to achieve with that.
So, you know, everyone really pushed me to get this book out and felt that it was very important. And, you know, unless you sell masses of books, you know, it's not a lucrative thing, you know, being an author. And it just seems to be that the better way, instead of, you know, taking money from this book, is to really, you know, intake, you know, any sales from the book go and then go back into the community by putting them in classrooms throughout the United States, because we don't have, normally, you know, I'm from Central PA. I like to give back to my neighborhood. But this is a problem that we're having everywhere, and there are mothers like me struggling. There's teachers that are trying to do better. There are kids, you know. I mean, it's just had such a big impact already. Everybody that sees it's like, hey, I know someone. I'm going to get this book for them. You know, so to kind of almost recycle the sales and then put it back into classrooms seems to be the best way to get the word out.
Okay. Okay.
Amazing. And so tell us a little bit about the vlog and about simplysocialstories.com.
Yeah, so simplysocialstories.com, ironically, the publisher of this book and I, we have a vlog, and it's pretty big here in Central PA, and we talk to business owners, we talk to people doing events, and we just kind of get the message out, very similar to what you do with Autism Live, but we do that with business owners here in Central PA, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, we think that you guys are just remarkable. The book is so sweet.
It is sweet. We encourage. How can people get the book?
www.autisminclassrooms.org. It's also on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. You know, so people can obviously, they can make a purchase and get the book, and they can also go online and they can say, hey, I'm a teacher in Arizona and I have a need. I want this in my classroom.
Great.
Well,
it's a great message and
it absolutely
a great
is.
Resource.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to be with us. It was really nice to meet both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Really super sweet.
It is a
guys.
super
Check
sweet
that
book
out.
and a great way for other kids to understand.
Absolutely.
Those on the spectrum. It's very simple in its message.
Absolutely, but very profound.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say? And then want to point out that they also have a Facebook page. You can go to www.facebook.com/simplysocialstories. And on their Facebook, there's a thing that says, ask how you can be featured on an upcoming show. I know that there are many of you out there that will write to us and ask if you can be on our show, and we try to accommodate all of those requests. But here's another outlet that you guys can go on. So really, really lovely. autisminclassrooms.org. Not to be confused with Autism in the Classroom.
Right.
Because I own that.
That's right. Okay.
Isn't that funny? Because this is a big topic. Like,
Yeah.
I feel this affinity with her. We want to talk about autism, you know, and what it's like in the classroom. Because if we don't do that, I mean, we're seeing a new breed of kids who go to classrooms that are better prepared. They've had ABA therapy. They're there to be learners and scholars. And the teachers, like we've been trying to catch up with the pediatricians, like the 64-year-old pediatrician who is in screening for autism. You know, even the 50-year-old teacher sometimes has not had the opportunity to learn some of the newer things about working with behavior in a classroom.
Right.
I'd like to get there.
Right.
In any case, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back.
We'll be
I'm going
back.
to talk a little bit more about AutFest, and you're going to talk about Denim and Diamonds.
Yeah.
Stick with us.
Neurodiversity in parents. One big happy family? We hope so. Anyway, what is neurodiversity? Everybody's talking a lot about it these days. Neurodiversity means that there's a view that people with autism just have a different way of being, and they should be honored for that. And then parents oftentimes look at autism as a disability or a disorder, and that can create some conflict. We sometimes throw up our hands, neurodiversity or neurodiversity. There can actually be some issues around this that we need to think about together. First of all, neurodiversity could be positive because it can create more of kind of a sense of acceptance in society. Yes, these people have autism, they're just different. It could possibly help create a sense of self-esteem that's improved in people with autism. They just realize, okay, I'm not damaged, I'm not bad, whatever, I'm just different. So that could be useful. On the downside, it could be an excuse to not give services to people with autism, to not have much empathy for their parents, and to not look at ways that they can be helped. And many people that have autism, they do very well. Other people do not do well at all. They can't access services. They cannot enjoy their life. They're in pain. So it is important that we understand it's not just one issue. So how do we solve this when we look at neurodiversity? I think we have to look at it this way. It's kind of like when you have that big family dinner at Thanksgiving and everybody's around the table. You got your uncle, your aunt, your kids, your parents. Everyone has an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mesh. And I think the way that we need to think about this is we need to respect each other's opinion, because actually we need each other. We need to be allies on this. The outside world is a big place for people with autism spectrum disorders and their families. We have to remember we're one big, happy, dysfunctional family, and we need to behave that way. We should respect each other, listen to each other, and we will all have a great time when it comes time to get together and celebrate the lives of people with autism.
And we're back.
So I was just saying, I keep talking about AutFest.
Right.
And it was a really...
Yeah, tell me about it.
First of all, I just think it's really fun anytime you can get to go and meet people that maybe you haven't met, that you're friends with online. And I got to meet a lot of friends that I hadn't met before.
Right.
And there were some great films that they
What was the focus this year of the...
Siblings.
Okay.
Siblings and family. So there were 2 panels, and I was the moderator for both panels, which was a great honor for me. And the first panel was siblings. Was very interesting. So there were 3 siblings on the panel, and of course one of them is an individual who identifies as being on the spectrum themselves, but very high functioning. She was the star of Autism-live.
Okay.
Wonderful, brilliant woman, and she has a sibling who has more challenges.
Right.
That's on the spectrum, and then there were the other 2 that were on the panel, and they talked really frankly about. There was a moment that I thought was so compelling, that one of the young man who was the sibling was talking about something, and he was talking about, well, you do this and you try to do this and it feels like this and whatever, and then he said the word guilt. And the reaction that rippled through everybody's body. And I was like, did everybody see that? Was it not just me? Did you see what happened when the word guilt got said? It was a really
There's a lot of guilt about not having...
Oh my gosh. And then it opened them up to talking about, the one, Kristen, who we had here on the show, Kristen Roth. And she was saying, the hardest thing for her was when she made the decision to move from where she grew up in Boston to Southern California, because she was leaving her brother behind.
She wouldn't be there for her sibling.
And yet, she does all these other things. She's in no way left him behind, but the feeling of, do I go with my life and go do something else that he isn't getting to do? Man, it was a really powerful, powerful moment. So there was that. I just felt really privileged to be there to see that. And I always say this, I have this theory that siblings of individuals on the autism spectrum, I think, grow up to be the best people on the
And I grew up as a sibling of a brother with Down syndrome. Right. So it gives you a sensitivity.
And these are the people who are very civic minded. Right. And donate their time and are about, that whole idea of we're not I love everywhere right now there are those big, I don't know, they're here in Los Angeles, but they say we're not okay until everybody's okay. And what I see is that people who have a sibling who has any kind of a difference, right? That those are people who are just are made that way. Like they came off the printing press believing that we're not okay until everybody's okay. And so they are the people who do things. They become first responders. They become nurses and doctors, and or they're people who are working activists trying to make a difference and wouldn't consider doing anything else, right? So that's very interesting to me. So that was one of the panels, and then there was a break after that, and then they showed 2 films. So they show, well, not films. One of them was a short film called Duke, which, it's really short, and people can watch it. You should watch it. But it very quickly tells the story of a boy whose mom believed that he could communicate, that there was more going on in there. And he's nonverbal, and people were discounting her son, and she was like, I'm gonna keep, and he typed a note to his parents or to his teachers and said, please, look at me in a different way. I now have the ability to communicate. And it's just devastating that you see this mom and nobody believes her. Nobody believes her, and then something transpires that changes at least a few people's mind. So that mom was there, the real life mom. There's a movie that's the depiction of it. So the actor that played Duke was there, really lovely, talented young man who really did a lot of research. And so the actor was there, the director was there, the real life mom was there, and the real life Duke was there. So that was really fun. But then the big hit for me, and I keep slaughtering the name of it, my apologies to Disney, but I think it's Everything's Gonna Be Okay. And it's gonna. Everything's Gonna Be Okay. And this, I didn't know the whole history of, there was Disney and ABC are together, and there was something called ABC Family Channel. And then it changed to Freeform Disney, and now it's called Freeform.
I wasn't aware of that.
I wasn't either, but it is a subscription channel that plays cutting edge stuff. It is not your typical Disney fare. Let us say that loudly. And there is this fantastic young man. His name is Josh Thomas. He is a big star in Australia, a comedian, and he's hilarious. And he is the creator, the writer, and the star of this show. And I'm telling you, I watched it on Saturday morning, and anybody that I talked to all weekend, I was like, oh my gosh, this thing, oh my gosh. I don't even know how to describe it.
Does he play somebody on the spectrum?
No. He plays, no, but he plays he's a brother. He grew up in Australia. His dad left him and his mom in Australia because he got a woman pregnant in the United States. The child was born and had autism. So he decided to stay in America and left his other kid in Australia. Now he's an adult, and he's got these teenage half-sisters. The wife died.
Half-sisters or brothers?
They're half-sisters.
Oh,
There's 2 sisters, right? And one of them's on the spectrum, and one of them is not. So he's come for a visit. But things transpire, so he's going to have to stay, and he's going to have to pick up this thing because we discovered that the dad is deathly ill. And I'm telling you, Nancy, you will laugh, you will cry, it will push your buttons. Honestly, I think if you don't get at least a little bit agitated at least once, I'm going to check your pulse, because stuff happens in this. All I saw was the pilot. There's 10 episodes. They're premiering it in January. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I kept saying this to them. I was like, okay, it's unquantifiable. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. I loved it so. And I keep you know how when something stays with you, and it stays in your cells, and you keep playing it out, and then it's like, oh, and then that moment, and it's one of those things. Like, I loved The West Wing, but when The West Wing was on, I would always say to my husband, if you're going to be here while I'm watching it, you have to be quiet, because I have to hear every word. Because if I miss a word, I'm going to miss something. That's this guy, this writer. like every single moment. I was saying to one of the people afterwards, you know how you usually watch a show and something happens in a series and you go, oh, okay, I see where they're going with that. That's going to play out over 3 episodes. Right. 3-episode arc. I gotcha. Not in this. In this show, something happens and you go, they're going to deal with it right now? Right now? Oh, we're going to get to resolution on this right now? I mean, it's raw, but it's hilarious. It's very cutting edge, though. It's not the Disney that you're there's some stuff in this in this show, and really remarkable. I mean, some of the things that they poke fun of. You got to know that his character is gay,
right?
And like all of that plays out, and it's just so lovely to see these characters depicted in the way that
very honest,
very honest and very funny, and like there's like these awkward moments and they play through the awkward of it. It's just beautiful writing. And I remember sitting there and in the first 5 minutes I was like, oh, I know that a character is going to be on the spectrum, and I was like, oh, so not only are we going to take the autism community there, we're going to take the gay community there too. And then there's a Me Too moment, and I was like, oh, we're going to take the okay, we're gonna, like, it takes everybody there. And after the viewing of it and people watched it and we did the panel and everybody from the cast was there, but only a few of them were on the panel, and the creator was there. Lovely. Oh my gosh. I said to him, be ready, because the autism community is gonna love you. And he was like, really? And I said, oh, they're gonna squeeze you till your head's gonna pop, because they're gonna love him. And by the way, there's 3 characters in the first 10 episodes that are on the spectrum, and they are all played by actors on the spectrum.
Great. That's great.
Every single one of them. And they were all there. I got to talk to all of them. They're so super excited and talked about how much the process was great and how much they were listened to. One of the actresses has a dog, an assistance dog, and she auditioned and they loved her, and they said, you know, is your dog available to be in the show too? And she was like, I didn't know that there were assistance dog actors, but sure, no, my dog comes with me. So the dog is in the series too, and it's her real life assistance dog. So loved that. They all talked about how great the process was and how well taken care of they were and how excited they are. And everybody else in the cast was, you know, it's a love fest, right? But I just can't say it enough. I think this is going to be a remarkable thing. I've already said I'm getting Freeform just so that I can watch this thing. I just thought it was beautiful.
Is that the only place you can get it?
Yep, that's the only place where you can get it. I absolutely loved it. Oh my gosh, I did. I laughed. I cried.
I have not heard you this enthused about something.
I know. I mean, like, I think I get excited about a lot of things, but this is a level.
This sounds like you really over the top enthused.
Oh, you guys, I loved it so much. I couldn't stop talking about it on Saturday and Sunday, and I felt in talking to all the cast and the people that were there that they were a little, like, this was the first time that they showed it to people outside of its little cocoon. And I think they were concerned about how the autism community was going to react. But at the very end of the talkback, which I think you guys can watch on Autism Society of America, they put them out live, so they should be there. But there was a gentleman in the front. Well, first of all, a woman had a question for Josh, and she said, you know, I'm just curious, who's your target audience for this, right? Like, I just kept thinking, wow, who is this for? And he was like, I don't know, for everyone, but with an Australian accent, he said that, right? And everybody kind of laughed, right? And then they answered more questions, and then there was a gentleman down in front, and he said, I just got to say that this woman's question, he said, it's just on my heart, I have to say this, that I sat here and watched this, and he said that he's ex-military. I said, I'm getting emotional. And he said, I sat here and I watched this, and he said, and what this is, it's hilarious, and you're from Australia, so this makes no sense. And he said, but this show is about the American dream.
Right.
This is about how we have to take care of each other and how we have to accept each other and how, like, everybody's going to come different to the party and how we have to be in this together. And I got to say, I mean, I was so emotional watching it. I stood up in my living room at one point and didn't even know that I was standing up. And it was from a small character something that a teacher said in a classroom and I stood up. But there are so many moments in it that you will appreciate this, Nancy, that there is a moment when, you know, the dad has said, look, here's the thing, I'm sick and I'm dying, and they go through all of that, and it's a really incredibly intense and hilarious and tender moment. But then the realization, and this is a young man, right? Like, you know, probably in his late 20s, who's, you know, like living this lifestyle, and you know, his interest is in boys, you know, like, so not somebody you would think is a caregiver. And there's a moment where he says, oh, you want me to be their guardian? And he goes, okay, and accepts it in that moment, is like, yep, no, I'm here, I'm gonna do it. And it made me cry to see him in that moment, these two kids that took his dad away, that he didn't get to know before, and he's like, yep, no, totally, I'm 100% on it. And then to see that play out, because everybody's like, well, is that really the best thing? And then, you know, and then they have to have the discussion with the girls about it, and then it's going to play out. Is he the best choice for it? But it's very, I mean, if that's not to the heart of what all of us as autism parents worry about and stay awake about, who, and I didn't say this was my one regret in life on Sunday, that I didn't say this, but like, I watched that first episode and I was like, I would want him. I would want this character to be my child's guardian. Right. Like, yes, absolutely. Because all the pieces are there, the respect and the love. And, you know, and he says, okay, you know, I'm not the most mature, and I'm not good at this, and I'm not good at that, but, you know, I'm here and I'm going to try. And I'm saying about the emotion of it, but it is one of the funniest things I've seen in a really long time, you guys. So I'm going to keep talking about it. You're not going to hear the end of it, because I can't wait to see it. I loved it so much. I can tell. I will make you all sick and tired by the time January comes. Okay. About it, because it was just divine. Okay, so we have to talk a little bit about, in the remaining minutes, you got a big event coming up. Denim and Diamonds.
Denim and Diamonds for Autism. Denim and Diamonds and Stars for Autism.
Yes.
Although the stars this year are really activist in the autism world.
Well, that's what the awards are, but there's always stars
There's
there.
always stars there.
And actually, what are we saying? I mean, first of all, you guys are all stars, and of course, Erin is, you know, the star in the terms that
Erin Murphy is one of the honorees who played Tabitha on Bewitched, and she is an autism mom and activist.
Yes.
And she's getting the Golden Cowgirl Award. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is getting the Visionary Award.
Yes.
And they're giving me a Legacy Award.
Well, and I just want to say it's about time for all of these awards. You absolutely deserve an award. Hello. And so does Dr. Grandpichet. The work that you guys have been doing over the last 10 years and the amount of money that you guys have given away, it's high time that you guys got awards. So I think that that's amazing. And it's a great event.
It's a great event, and we encourage the public to come. They can go to our website, act-aday.org.
Or you can go to denimanddiamondsandstars.org, and it'll take you there too.
Take you there, yeah.
And it's great if people want to come. If you want to come and rub elbows with all the people who will be there.
It's a gala, so, you know, it's a fundraiser. So
it absolutely is. It's not inexpensive.
Not inexpensive.
But it goes to a very good cause.
Right.
And, but there's lots of people there, and it's a big opportunity to meet and greet with people, because everybody's there together. It's, you know, I think a lot of times people come to Hollywood and they're like, oh, you know, I want to go here and there because I want to get to see some celebrities. And, you know, that may or may not work out for you. But if you want to get to meet people, this is the kind of place where you actually get to talk to them. Yes, it's expensive. I will say that if it's something that is, you don't live in the Los Angeles area, you can't get here, and the ticket price is outside what you can pay, which is going to be most of us, right? But I will say that you can still support Act Today.
And make a donation.
You can make a donation.
It's going to
any
grants for
size.
Children who need care and treatment.
Yes, you can make a donation any size. You can have a lemonade stand if you want to, and donate the money from that, and you will feel good about yourself. And we will be there there. Autism Live will be there on the red carpet covering it so that you can see a lot of the hubbub of what happens. Because we're live and often we're the only people live on the red carpet, we don't have, like when you watch the Academy Awards and Ryan Seacrest and all those people are there doing the red carpet, they have a producer in a truck.
Right.
And they have, 3 people, and they have somebody that has a set someplace removed that they go, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Right.
While they get the start. We don't do
While
any
they're ready.
of that.
Right.
We don't do any of that. We have our podcaster on the iPad.
Go with it.
And we just talk, and you get to see some of the hilarious behind-the-scenes things that happen. And
last year you had a West Wing reunion, and you were hobnobbing with all the West Wing
and
stars.
Things get said that don't get said anywhere else.
Like and there's no editing.
I was standing there with Gary Cole, and I always think of him as Toby, the Richard Schiff.
Right.
And they were standing there talking because we were waiting for Martin Sheen, who the reporter before us, who if I'm on that side of her this year, Nancy,
you're butting her out of the way.
Hell to pay because she, we're all told you get 2 minutes, ask 2 questions, and then move it along. I mean, these people are here to be with other people, not with us. And I always try to adhere to that. And I'm always standing downwind of somebody who talks for 20 minutes to Martin Sheen. And so we were waiting, and so while we were waiting, that's when some of the best stuff happens. So Gary Cole and Richard Schiff started talking about how there has been talk about a West Wing reunion.
Which would be fantastic.
And that one of them, I don't remember who, had an idea for who it would, because they were going through the list about, well, so-and-so can't be president, and so can't be president, so who is that left? And so they were like sort of pitching ideas as I had a microphone in their faces, and I was like, I'm going to stand here very quietly and say nothing and not move because they've forgotten that they're live on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? And like I was like, oh, this is some, if you're a West Wing fan, that's like
you got some good inside information. Yeah.
And I, of course, proposed, for those of you who are West Wing, I was like, well, Alice and Janney can still be president.
Right.
I was like, So anyway, and then I got very quiet, because then they were kind of turned and they were like, oh, you're still here with a microphone. And I was like, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Keep talking. Anyway, it's a really, really fun time.
It's a fun evening.
It is a fun evening. You can tune in and watch, or you can come and be there. And if you can come and be there, that's a really incredible thing to do. Believe me, you won't forget it for the rest of your life. It's a thing. So anyway, we're way out of time, but we so appreciate you. I, of course, need to go over what happens next week. Yes. Okay. So next week on Monday, we have Bonnie Yates with us, and we have Tom Island.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Tom Island is a self-advocate, and he is an award-winning author.
Right.
And he is now an accredited speaker, and he's, of course, always an autism advocate. He just won something really big.
Oh, did he?
Yes. He won a distinction in Toastmasters that only 99 people in the country hold, and he's the only person on the autism spectrum. So he's going to talk about this award, and he's amazing. So, and then we have a best of episode on Tuesday, because that's what we do on Tuesdays. Then on Wednesday, at this moment in time, we're told that we do have Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet with us. I will keep you guys posted on that. Then next Thursday, we have autism expert Veronica Lujano.
Okay.
And then on next week, for us, we're having Erin Murphy on.
Murphy.
So that'll be super fun, because we have not, I don't know why, we've never had Erin on the show before.
She's delightful.
She's so lovely. She's always so kind. We've interviewed her.
She has a son on the spectrum.
And she's a remarkable person, and of course, as you said, Tabitha on Bewitched. I just always she's probably so sick of people coming up to her and doing that. But so she's delightful, and we'll have her on next week, and we'll hobnob about all of that.
Okay.
Did you watch Bewitched? It was everything to me.
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
If I wasn't feeling well, that was my favorite thing. My grandmother always called it being quilt and ginger ale sick, when you're not so sick, but you like to be on the sofa with a quilt and a glass of ginger ale. And for me, Bewitched.
Bewitched was
and
it.
I
loved it too.
anytime I've met
One of my
anyone
favorite
named
childhood
Darren,
series.
I always call them Durwood. It doesn't go over well. But no, I loved Bewitched. And we just went to Salem, Massachusetts, and I have a picture, I'm going to bring it next week, of me with the big Elizabeth Montgomery statue.
Oh, okay.
I was very happy and excited to get a picture with that. Okay.
All right, we're out of time, aren't we?
We're way out of time. But until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.